Hey, what's up, everybody? Mike Caluzzi here, host of ProTips to Grow Your Business. I'm a business coach and entrepreneur, an attorney who works with service-based professionals and entrepreneurs who want to eliminate overwhelm and frustration to grow their business with clarity and confidence. You could find me on the web at MikeCaluzzi.com. That's MikeColuzzi, or send me an email at mike@MikeCaluzzi.com to schedule a free consult. So today I am very happy to have Christy Kiltz on as my guest. Christy has been taking care of business owners online since 2001. So she is definitely an OG in this category. From the beginning, she has offered full service and solutions for clients to empower them so they can focus on their work. And today she has a full robust team that she coordinates and uses to create customized solutions to help you grow your business. Now, unlike most agencies, her focus is on a partnership with you so you can have your team and her team truly work together to develop the site that will accomplish your online goals. You can connect with Christy at www.designbykiltz.com. That's DESIGNBYKILTZ.com. And you can also find her on social media at Design by Kiltz on Facebook and on Instagram. With that being said, Christy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Mike. It is great to be here.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. So, like I said in the intro, you are an OG, right? You have been in this for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So, what I would love to find out from you is what's the best way to kind of approach, developing, an online presence.
And I can easily do that. And I love the fact that the things that are key were key back in 2002 and 3 and 4 and 5. So algorithms can change, the technology behind websites can change. Way back then, there was a million search engines. Google was born somewhere in that mix of things. And now there's pretty much one search engine. We've got a ton of social media that has exploded since then. But there are really two things that are very simple, and that is having a website that is clear and easy for people to understand what you sell. Be it a service, be it a product, either one. So many websites, I call it corporate speak. You land on the homepage and what you read is, welcome to my website. I've been in business for 25 years and I blah, 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 blah. And about that time you turn people off.
Right.
Instead of saying, you want to buy shoes? My shoes are designed to help your feet not hurt when you're standing on them all day. Do you want men's shoes or do you want women's shoes? Right there, coming to your website with that kind of a message, I know what you can do and how you can help me, what problem that you solve for me.
That's a great point. That's a great point. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think it, just to reiterate, I know in speaking with so many folks, most of us are so inclined to want to be able to, do the big scenario where it's the bells and whistles and the features and benefits type scenario right off the bat, and they make it about them. Whereas to your point, it's not about you at all. It's about
absolutely
right.
Absolutely. Right. And that worked 20 years ago. And it still works today, because as human beings, we're going through life looking for those things that we need to survive. And when you're in business, there's an entire thing above, I need to be warm and have clothing and have food on my table.
Right.
It's all about having this business dream and this passion for your business and having that business grow and, of course, fulfill personal needs. And when you take that and then you realize that for your customer, what problems is your customer actually wanting to solve? Why in the world would they hire you in the first place? What problem are you solving for them? When you put that first and foremost, you are tying into that ingrained, innate piece of us that we've had for thousands of years. And that is, I'm a part of a story and you're drawing me into a story.
Very cool.
And that's why it has worked for over 20 years.
It's very similar. I'm not sure if you're a Donald Miller fan. I'm a huge
Oh,
Donald Miller
yes.
fan. And there's a lot of resonance to your message, to what he says. And I think why I think so many business owners and entrepreneurs relate to him is because he does create a very clear and concise approach that allows us to express ourselves, provide what our value offering is, but understand also that it is about sharing that emotional story or sharing that type of solution that can solve people's problems, where there's a relatability and a connective ability to connect with that client in a way. And so I love it. I love the sentiments that you share, because it is something that I teach all of my clients the same thing, as far as what is the solution that you're providing to your clients, right? And how can you do that in a way that's really clear and concise and gets to the point. So
right.
when people, right? So that's really cool. So that being said, Christy, do you find that when you're working with clients, one of the things that I have found historically working with web designers, right, versus like digital marketers, there's sometimes a disconnect with a novice business owner where they don't understand that you really have to get a full service design right off the bat, where the person or the company you're working with understands the technical component, right, as far as how to build it, but also understands what it means to be a digital marketer. Could you talk a little bit about that, so folks who are listening can understand what the difference is, again, before they spend those precious dollars to help them?
Absolutely. So and I'm all for, working with people locally. So you look up, local web design, whatever city you're in, and you pick a local web designer. They're not necessarily a full digital marketing agency. They may or may not understand this entire concept of story that we just barely touched on. They may not have anything like that. And they may not have content writers that write content based on that story. So they may not A, understand story. B, they may not take the time to do a complete deep dive into your business to truly understand the business. What are you all about? To understand your market. Who in the world are you trying to reach? And then on the third aspect is, how do you engage those two? Without those three ingredients, I don't think you can put together an effective website. What you end up with is what I call a very expensive business card. It's got generic text, it looks nice, but it's not engaging. You may get some leads and some business from it, but you're leaving so much on the table that so when you go to work with somebody locally, make sure that you're asking the right questions. Make sure that you're asking them and to find out if they understand brand story, and whether it's Donald Miller's story brand or whether it's just the brand story concept, understanding that, making sure that if their onboarding survey is very brief and doesn't go into detail, ask them about the detail of their onboarding survey. If it doesn't go into detail, they probably aren't asking the right questions.
Do you find that that's something that is one of education? Like, I guess a really interesting question would be is, like, when you're sitting down with a client or a potential client, what type of questions do you get from a client where you're like, oh, this person is in tune with where we're going, versus someone who you say, okay, I have to do more of a little bit of an educational scenario to have to give them a better understanding on why we're here?
Usually when I start to share our process, what really lets me know what side of that coin that they are on is if they say, wow, that sounds exactly like what I need. Then I know that they get the importance of it. If they're kind of like, well, I don't know, then there's a lot more education. And sometimes, unfortunately, people put the dollar signs before the functionality of a website.
So what does that mean as far as they get cost conscious about how much things cost and they
Yes.
put their blinders on? I mean, I know I've experienced that as an attorney and a marketer for years, which is severely almost an oxymoron, because what drove me actually to become a business coach was having a very unique level of experience wherein I obviously I worked as an attorney. I've been one for 20 years, over 20 years now, 22 or 20. Wait, oh my gosh, 24. Oh my gosh, time's flying by. Anyway, so that's crazy. But also with respect to, you know, I worked and built a network marketing business with my wife, Desiree. And that was, I always said it was the entrepreneurial proving ground beyond all other experiences. But to that level, it was a matter of recognizing the value of marketing. And when when we're dealing with kind of left brain technical people, or like people who, like you said, who kind of are always putting the dollars, oh my gosh, what's this going to cost? They're not looking at the bigger picture to understand what this is really about. And there, would it be fair to say that, you run into that? Or
I'm absolutely, because you get people where they want to spend, 3,000 or maybe 5,000. We're talking, they want a good sized website, 10, 12 pages, that type of thing, not e-commerce, but just service based. And they think, oh, 3,000 or 5,000, and that's too much. I was hoping to spend less. Stop and think of it. If you get a generic website, let's just say 4,000 or 5,000, and your business goal is that website is going to help grow your bottom line by bringing in, let's just say 2 new customers a month. With that, let's say 4 leads, two new customers a month. Convert them once the leads come in. We're going to take a 50% conversion. With that generic website, can you reach that goal? You might even throw paid advertising at that website and maybe convert 1 lead a month. How much money are you losing? In other words, how much money is a new customer worth to you that you wanted, that 2 new customers a month would help you reach your business goals? I'm doing simple math here.
Yeah. Well, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because if they don't understand the process, but then they want to dictate the solution based upon the least informed person in the room, right? It becomes like, okay, like, so that's where I know as professionals, there are times now, where we have to say, look, as much as I want to help you, if you're not really aligned with where we really are as me helping you as an expert, then maybe, you're really not ready to make the commitment.
And I have to be okay saying, I don't feel like it's a good fit. And a lot of times, if they're not willing to set the price point aside and understand the importance, what do you really want to accomplish with this website? Not just, I want X number of pages. That's kind of another red flag. If you've got a web designer that is just asking you, how many pages do you want?
Well, I guess it goes back to
the extent. You're going to get X number of pages.
So I guess it goes back to how we talked, how we started off, in the sense of, what you were saying, what it was old is new again, in the sense of people need to understand the fundamental way of what the value of the website is. Now, are we talking more along the lines of optimizing it, obviously, to be technologically sufficient to utilize the data mining opportunities that are still available? But is it more along the lines where you're advising clients that, hey, there's going to be more of an organic build to this? How are you, like, what's your thoughts on
both? It's both. So once you have a website that has that funnel created correctly, so you're leading people in through, you're connecting and speaking to the that why. You're speaking to the part of the brain that is making decisions, not just the what you sell, but you're really
Mm-hmm.
diving in deep. Once you have that website, you still need to drive traffic to it. So part one is getting a website that is built with the purpose and the thought process of converting people. Step two is getting people to that website.
Mm-hmm.
So the second aspect, and this has changed as far as what you do has changed, but there are still fundamentals that are the same, is you have to engage in some kind of search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
And that is generally twofold. Number one is behind the scenes, technically, what is Google seeing
Mm-hmm.
that is a red flag that is hindering your listings? And this is being extremely simplified because there are over 200 elements.
Yeah.
Over 200 elements that Google pays attention to these days. The second is your content. And if you have a content writer who not just understands brand story and writes good content, but then understands how to utilize keyword research, that's a part of all of our projects. So we've done research based on kind of a starter list that you help us create. And so we've included those keywords in your content, in your page titles and that type of thing. One piece, I don't care what the algorithms have changed, because Google has literally leveled the playing field over the years, it is still true today, as it was way back when, that if you put the important words in your page titles, in your headings on the page, and then sprinkling them through the content, not overdoing it, that has always been an important aspect to Google. Now, where Google has changed is back then, if I wanted to rank for web design Grants Pass, Oregon, I would use that on my page title and include that phrase exactly multiple times on a page. Google understands now, using the whole AI aspect that we're going into, the context of what you're talking about without using the exact same words. So as long as you repeat that thought process, if I could use it that way, on the page, yes, include those keywords. But where Google has shifted is more, it can understand the conversation of what you're talking about, instead of just being able to say, oh, this keyword is repeated X number of times on the page.
So it contextualizes your content.
Absolutely. And that's a big shift, but including your keywords and key phrases in all of the main places has been important ever since Google came on board.
Interesting. It's interesting content. So what would you say then is the role then with respect to like funneling in, say, active social media engagement that with active links on your website, so that does that play a part in the Google?
Absolutely.
Can you kind of go into that a little bit? Because I think, so many business people I talk to, they just shudder at the idea of just, getting on social media and doing things that are just, the ones that we talked earlier. It's the like, know, and trust factor. And even though, whatever it is that you're offering, at the end of the day, people, obviously you have to be competent. There's certain baselines, obviously, that are just assumed, but you still want to be able to differentiate somehow. I mean, even, and we could talk about even with you as far as how you've been in business for so many years. I'm sure you've encountered that, to say, okay, how do I know who I'm attracting and who is my ideal client, and what do I do to engage in, so that I can bring them into the fold? That makes sense?
Absolutely. And social media is important, not just to Google, but if you think of a universe, okay, your website is the sun of our solar system. Okay, let's just take the solar system that the Earth is a part of. Your website is the sun, which means it is the absolute core. And spinning around the sun, we have all of these different planets. We have Facebook, and we have LinkedIn, and we have Instagram and Pinterest, or everything else. And then we also have Google spinning around. So they're all integrated. Google takes some of the information, especially if you are a local business that is dependent on local listings. They look at vertical directories for your information. They look at Facebook. Of course, having a Google business page is important, a LinkedIn business page, but more so Facebook, and having a business page where your information across those vertical directories and Facebook is exactly the same. That's critical. But instead of all of your social media directly impacting Google, what it's doing is it's raising the visibility. You know, think of it if you lived in a valley with mountains around, and you had just, you know, Google on one mountain peak shining a bright light. That's one bright light. But what if off of every single peak, you had a bright light shining? You're going to light up the night sky. Everywhere people look, they're going to see you. And that's the importance of engaging on social media. Now, what I don't recommend, and we don't offer, we partner with people, I should not say we don't offer. We partner with people to do social media fulfillment and marketing. It's not an in-house service that we have. But what you need to do is pick one channel and get started and get it going smooth. It's better to go deep and get it right on one channel than to all of a sudden be trying to fulfill three. Right. Because the important thing is the information that you put out on social media, if not more important than your website, needs to rise above the noise. And we've all seen those various posts out of, you know, how many new YouTube videos are created every minute, you know, how many Facebook posts and Instagram posts are created every single minute. There's more content being created than we can even begin to take in. So think for every single post, how can I share this information so that it will stand out? And a key element is going back to your story, focusing on that why instead of just the what, because the majority of people posting on social media are talking about what. If you're familiar with Simon Sinek's start with why, is you've got those 3 deeper steps. So the what is what everybody else is talking about. You want to beat your competition, go for that bullseye and focus in on the why. And that why, by the way, ties in with brand story perfectly.
I was just saying, you really provide I work with a lot of folks to help with their brand strategy. Because I work with a lot of folks who are either transitioning out of maybe like a traditional